بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. We almost finished fiqh of zakah. There's one more thing left to discuss, and fiqh of zakah will be done officially because it's not a fiqh class, just the basics of zakah. One more thing we have to discuss in zakah would be zakatul fitr and some contemporary issues with regards to zakah and the fatwa on it of the Fiqh Council of North America and stuff like that. And that's it really. We discussed on who zakah is fard upon. We said that it's fard upon the wealth, not the person. That's the majority opinion. And we said that it's 4 types of wealth that zakah is mandatory upon, or it's called zakatable, if you want to use that English term. Gold and silver, which is replaced by currency, livestock, anything that comes out of earth, which is 3 things, crops and agriculture, treasure that you might find buried somewhere, and metals, mined metals that come out of the earth. So anything that comes out of the earth, livestock, gold and silver, and business commodities from which you make more money from. Zakah is due upon these 4 types of wealth. And we don't need to worry about mined metals. We don't need to worry about livestock. Unless you have, then you can come talk to me. And that has to do with someone who owns a farm, not just having a chicken in your backyard. We also don't have to worry about things that come out of the earth, right? Mined metals and crops, agricultural crops, and found treasure. We don't have to worry about that. The only thing we worry about is gold and silver and business commodities. These are the only 2 things that we should be focused on. For gold and silver is very straightforward. It's 20 dinar of gold. That is the nisab. For silver is 200 dirham. 20 dinar is 85 grams of gold. 200 dirham is 585 grams of silver. And which one do you take when you convert it to cash as the nisab? Because the cash is not mentioned, right? Currency is not mentioned. Gold and silver is mentioned. Do you take the silver? Do you take the gold? Do you take the gold? You go by the gold standard, which is 85 grams of gold. If you calculate that to today, what you do is on the day of zakah, you calculate what the gold price is on that day, and you see if you're above that value, and you give zakah on that. That will be 12,000. I checked it 2 days ago. It was 11,500 Canadian. Subhanallah, inflation, how it's risen. It used to be 2,000 to 3,000 to 4,000. Then went to 6,000. Now it's 12,000 Canadian. So if you're below that threshold, you don't have to pay zakah. If you're above that threshold, you have to pay zakah. Bidnai ta'ala. We have to discuss a few things. Debt. We have to discuss debt. We have to discuss zakatul fitr. We have to discuss business commodities. And these 3 things we have to discuss in zakatul fiqh of zakah. 3 things. I'm going to write it down so I don't forget. Because today I forgot. Yesterday some people asked me questions. I forgot what the questions were. I didn't get time to go back and watch the recordings. So I'm just going to write it down. We have to cover business commodities, which is liquid assets, money that makes money. We have to cover debts and some contemporary issues, and zakat al-fitr, which is a very small amount that's fard on every family to give in the month of Ramadan for the poor people. And then we'll be done fiqh of zakah, inshallah. Some people asked me questions yesterday. Can you remind me what those questions are? Because I forgot them. Yeah.
One question was, you purchased the land cheaply and then suddenly the land price went up. Now what will be the zakat on the current value of the land? Because the person does not have the money to pay the zakat based on the liquid
So okay. What I want you to do, if you can send me the question at imam@dawahcenter.ca. The reason why, two reasons. Number one, when you write down a question, you frame it better. You think about it and you make sure it's a complete question. And number two, fiqh is very nuanced, where a different word in your question can change the answer. For example, the brother just asked me, I bought a land, and 2 years later, the price of the value of the land went up. Do I pay on the original? Do I pay on the 2 years value, right? You pay on the value that the land is valued at every year. But the thing is, what type of land is it? Did you buy it for personal use or did you buy it for business? Make sense? If you buy it for business, then you pay zakah on it. If you don't buy, if it's personal use, you don't pay zakah on it, right? So just that one word in the question will change the answer. The question will be, I bought a land, do I pay zakah on it? Well, depends what the land is for. I bought a land for business purposes, do I pay zakah on that? That's a better question. That's a complete question. Does that make sense? طيب. Next question. What is the brother I think you asked me a question yesterday, right? Yeah, what was the question? We answered that question. Yeah. If you own a car and you paid off the car, if anything personal, you don't have to pay zakah on. Anything personal. Inshallah. Any other questions with regards to zakah or fiqh of fasting? We did before. After we finish fiqh of zakah, we're going to do fiqh of tahara and then fiqh of salah. Inshallah, yes.
How do you determine the price of anything that is volatile? Like, let's say you own a bunch of stocks, which a lot of people have in their retirement funds, and they're volatile with the current stock market.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. How do you determine the market value of a volatile market, like, for example, stock market? Now, it depends on how you calculate the nisab, right? It's called the hawl, the 12-month period. If the 12-month period, within the 12-month period, there's two opinions. The one that I mentioned yesterday, where if you meet the nisab at any point in that 12 months, and then you lower from the nisab, then when you come back to the nisab, then you start your 12 months again. Make sense? This is one opinion. This is Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and Imam Shafi'i. They follow this opinion. The second opinion, which is more effective for us in North America here, and is more conducive to the volatile markets that we are exposed to, for instance, the stock market and the cash, the currency value itself, right? What you do is you have a set date for zakat for yourself every year. This is the fatwa from Fiqh Council of North America. You have a set date for yourself, and also the Hanafi madhab, I believe, follows this. A set date. I have the Hanafi scholars here, so they can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not Hanafi, I'm Hanbali. So you have a set date that you set yourself, the 1st of Ramadan. On the 1st of Ramadan every year, you look at your stock market investments, you look at your business assets, you look at everything else that you have, you calculate your nisab on the 1st. Every year on the 1st. On that day, whatever the value of your stock market is, you pay on that. Does that make sense? Now, even with the stock market, you don't have access to the full cash, right? And then when you pull the money out, you have to pay penalties and taxes and whatnot. So when you pay all of that, and then whatever you are able to pull out on that day, from that amount of cash only, you are liable to pay. Whatever you're able to pull out on that day. Make sense? Doesn't mean you have to pull out. Well, you have the capacity to pull out. On that you pay zakah. Brother Fayyaz, you get the answer?
Yes.
Good question. RESP and RRSP, we mentioned it before. There's a difference of opinion, obviously, with everything. But because one of the categories or conditions for zakah to be valid or to be due upon something is you have to have complete ownership of the wealth. Make sense? In RESP and RSP, you don't have complete ownership. You have partial ownership. You owe some of the money, government puts in most of the money. And when you even take out, you have to fill out the forms, etc., etc. So you don't have full ownership. If you don't have full ownership, it's not zakatable. So it's not zakatable. RRSP, RESP. Inshallah. Yeah. Yeah. If you have a friend who you've invested with and you are you're the investor, you've given him money and he's doing business on your behalf, and you have to give zakah on the profit, you'll have to give the zakah on the profit that you get. This is going to be a shared profit, right? So that's the profit that you get from it, you have to give zakah on that. Yeah. So it depends, right? So the question is, if I understand correctly, I'm going to repeat it so you make sure that I understand it correctly. You're saying that you have a friend, you give him money, and the contract, because you shouldn't do business without a contract if you don't know that yet. If you have a contract, you're saying that for 5 years, I don't want any profit. Whatever it is going to go back into the business, right? It's a good question. There's a difference of opinion amongst the scholars on this one. One opinion says that because you're locked out, in the US, I think it's called LIRA, locked investment something. Yani. It's just locked in RA, something. Locked, meaning you're locked into it. Like there's no getting out of it for 5 years, you have no access to your investment, right? Some scholars have said that in that case, you still pay zakah on it, because you had the free will and you willingly, having full control over that money, put that money into that investment. But the stronger opinion that I understand, I could be wrong, Allah knows best, is that you don't have to, because you don't have full ownership of it. You had ownership at one point, you don't have ownership of it now. It's kind of like, it's not like you lost money. Because when you lose it, you don't have control. It's not like that, because you still have control. But you're locked out of it. Like if you want back, you can't get it back, right? So it's effectively the same as you locked out. But this opinion is that I find strong. Allah knows best. If you're locked out, you don't have full ownership, so you don't have to.
If somebody owns a business, like I was reading that one is like the zakat is on the profit that you maintain over a year. And then someone was saying, no, it is the zakat on the valuation of the asset of the business. So that is a little confusing because, for example, if I own a rental property worth of, let's say, 1 million, and the zakat on that would be 25,000 per year. But my rent from the house of that 1 million is probably...
This was the question from yesterday, I think, that I didn't answer. I'll answer it tomorrow, inshallah. It's a very good question. The question is, do I pay zakah on the capital or the evaluation of the business as a total, or just the profit from the business for that year? It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. Send it to me if you can, inshallah. طيب. Well, iftar is in 2 minutes. If you have any more questions, I would love to answer them. Email me, imam@dawahcenter.ca. Inshallah, please. Please do it. That's called Zakatul Fitr. We will talk about it, inshallah. So, yeah, you can just give it to the masjid, we distribute it for you. Here, inshallah. May Allah bless you. Let's make dua, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلالك ولعظيم سلطانك. اللهم لك الحمد حتى ترضى ولك الحمد إذا رضيت ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. اللهم تقبل منا صلاتنا وصيامنا وقيامنا وركوعنا وسجودنا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع المتقين والأبرار. اللهم ارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين واشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين ودمر أعداءك وأعداء الدين. اللهم أهلك الفاسقين الذين يصدون عن سبيلك. اللهم أحصهم عددا واقتلهم بددا ولا تغادر منهم أحدا. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من عذاب القبر ومن عذاب النار. اللهم أجرنا من عذاب النار. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من فتنة المحيا والممات ومن فتنة المسيح الدجال. اللهم اجعل القرآن ربيع قلوبنا ونور صدورنا وجلاء أحزاننا وذهاب همومنا وغمومنا يا الله. اللهم اجعل القرآن لنا في الدنيا قرينا وفي القبر مؤنسا وعلى الصراط نورا وفي الجنة رفيقا ومن النار سترا وحجابا وإلى الخيرات كلها دليلا. اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا وقلوب المسلمين. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم آمين يا رب. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا